Hey guys, this is lesson 3.8 and it's the last lesson of chapter 3 and we are going to be dividing decimals by decimals. Now let's start with example 1 because this is a little more tricky than you think. So here's the thing. When we divide by decimals, you can't really divide by a decimal, so we have to change our problem. Remember, one of the things in math I like to say is if you don't like the numbers we give you, change them to something that's easier. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply this number by 10. And what that is going to do is you move your decimal once to the right, and it's going to change it to a 9. Now, for the 1.71, here's the thing. For this trick to work, if I multiply the one number by 10, I have to multiply the other number by 10 as well, which is going to move that decimal once to the right, which is going to make it 17.1 divided by 9. Now, this first number, your dividend, can be a decimal, because we did that yesterday. But you can't divide by a decimal. So when I solve this one, and this is going to be like what we did yesterday, 9 goes into 17 once, which is 9. Subtract, bring down. 9 goes into 81 9 times, which is 81. Subtract, I get 1.9. Now, here's the thing. This is what I think is kind of cool. If the answer to our new problem is 1.9, the answer to the original problem is also 1.9. So what we did is we changed the problem to one that we liked better to help us get the answer. All right, now before we do some problems together, I want to move on. And we're not going to do example 2, but you can just watch as I do it here. So in example 2, see I have this decimal here, let me highlight it, that I don't want to divide by, because you really can't with this division algorithm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by 10, which moves the decimal once to the right, and it's going to give me 6. And then I'm going to multiply this by 10, or move the decimal once to the right, which is going to give me 26.4. So what I'm really going to do is solve that problem. 26.4 divided by 6. And 6 goes into 26 4 times, which is 24. Subtract, I get 2. Bring down the 4. Sorry that I'm writing over those words. And 6 goes into 24 4 times, which is 24. And I'm done. So I changed the problem to a nicer one in order to get my answer. Now, we're going to go down and we're going to do some of these problems together here in A, B, and C. So what I want you to do is for A, you're going to do this one with me, and then B and C will kind of do a little bit, I'll help you a little bit less. So let me get set up. All right, so problem A, I have 54.4 divided by 1.7. So remember, I'm going to multiply this by 10 to make it a 17. Remember, that just moves my decimal once to the right. And I must do the same thing to this number, multiply it by 10, which is going to make it 544. So this one you should be doing with me. Now once I solve this problem, I'll be done. It's just a regular whole number division problem. So I'm going to do a little bit of counting by 17s. 17, 34, 51, 68. They're the first 4. I have those memorized. After that, I have to figure it out. So let me get started. 17 goes into 54 3 times, which is 51. I'm going to subtract and bring down. Now 17 goes into 34 2 times, which is 34. I'm going to subtract. I'm done. My answer to A is 32. All right, now we're going to move on to B. So here's my question. In this problem, how do we get rid of this decimal? What would we be multiplying by to make this number a 36? So since we have to move the decimal twice, we're really multiplying it by 100. Think, 2 zeros, moving the decimal 2 times. Now that means we have to multiply the dividend by 100, move it 2 times. So here is my division problem. 842.4 divided by 36. All right, now I'm going to do a little bit of counting by 36 numbers here. So I know 36, 72. The next one I have to figure out. So I'm going to do 72 plus 36. That's 8, so 108. I'll do one more for now, plus 36. It's 14, 4. All right, 144. I'll add more if I need to. So let's get started. put your decimal straight up into the quotient. And 36 does not go into the 8, but it does go into 84 2 times, which is 72. I'm going to subtract and bring down. My new number is 122. So how many times does 36 go into 122? Well, it goes in 3 times. 3 goes here, which is 108. I'm going to subtract and bring down the 4. How many times does 36 go into 144? 4 times exactly, which is 144. Subtract, I get 0. That's my answer, 23.4. Now, last one. We're going to break this into 2 chunks because I want to see what you can do. So here's the first chunk. Let me get rid of this slop here. First thing I want you to do is you're going to pause the video, and all I want you to do is move the decimal so that this is a whole number. So I want to see what your new problem is going to be. Don't solve it. I just want you to move the decimals. Pause the video, move the decimals, restart it when you're done. This should take 10 seconds. Go. All right, so let's see what you did. So in order to move this is the one that has to be a whole number. We want this to be a 7. So we're actually going to multiply it by 1,000. Remember, that means we're going to move our decimal 3 times to the right. Now the key is we must do the same thing to this number. Have to multiply them both by the same thing, which means we're going to move this decimal 3 times to the right, which makes it 6.3. So here's my question. When you rewrote your new problem, did you get 6.3 divided by 7? If not, fix it. No big deal. Just learn from your mistake. And now I want you to pause the video and solve this problem. Restart it when you're done. Go. All right, let's see what you did. So you have 6 3/10 divided by 7. Now the thing is, here's a cool thing. If you know that 7 times 9 is 63, then you'll know 7 doesn't go into the 6, but it goes into 63 9 times. Your answer is 9/10. That's it. All right, so that's it on this page, but we have a couple trickier ones on the next page. We'll go over one example, or you know what? We won't go over these examples because they're not that, what are we going to do? Yeah, I want to go over one example, example 5, and then we'll work on the problems below. So, let me start with example 5 here. Let me get a nice box to do some work in. Okay, so first off, I have to multiply this by 100 to move that decimal twice to the right. And I must do the same to this number. Now the thing is, I don't have enough digits. So I have to add a 0 so that I can move my decimal twice to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 1,120 divided by 7. See how I did that? I had to multiply them both by 100, and for this number I had to add a 0 so I could move the decimal twice. And 7 goes into 11 once, which is 7. Subtract 4, bring down the 2. 7 goes into 42 6 times, which is 42. Subtract, bring down the 0, and 7 goes into 0 0 times. So my answer would be 160. That's your quotient. All right, now we're going to talk about these problems down below. So for problem D, we can't divide by this nasty looking decimal. So we want to make it 14. To make it 14, you have to move the decimal 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. Now, that means we have to move the decimal 3 times in the dividend. I'm going to add 2 zeros. Once, twice, 3 times. And that's going to make it 5,600 divided by 14. So that's the problem we're going to do. So we have 5,600 divided by 14. Now, if you do a little counting by 14 list, this problem is going to be a piece of cake. So I'm going to stop here because check it out. 14 times 4 is 56, right? So 14 goes into 56 4 times. Just bring those 2 zeros up. You're done. Your answer is 400. Told you it would be easy. Didn't even need to do any work. Now, in E and F, we'll kind of do E together because this one, a lot of people get tricked a little bit. Now, my question is, does 200 have a decimal in it? No, it doesn't. So guess what? We don't have to change a thing in this problem. I'm just going to do 6.24 divided by 200. Now I'm going to put my decimal straight up, and if you do a counting by 200 list, this one's going to be pretty easy, I think. So, first off, 200 does not go into 6, it does not go into 62, but it does go into 624 3 times, which is 600. Subtract, I get 24. I have to add a 0 to bring it down, so my new number is 240. So how many times does 200 go into 240? It goes in 1 time, which is 200. Subtract, add another 0 and bring it down. My new number is 400. And how many times does 200 go into 400? It goes twice, which is 400. And I am done. So my answer to this one, I'll highlight it here, is 0.0312, or 312 10,000ths. All right, now this last one here, the only hint I'm going to give you is because we're dividing by 25 and it's a whole number, you really don't have to change anything in this problem. So I want you to pause your video, do this one, and restart it when you're done. Go. All right, let's see how you did. So we're going to do 0.4 divided by 25. Now, if you got stuck on this one, we'll show you what to do. Because first, you notice 25 does not go into 0, and it does not go into 4. So what do? Well, you have to add another 0 here and say 25 goes into 40 1 time, which is 25. I'm going to subtract. I get 15. I'm going to add a 0 and bring it down, and my new number is 150. So then, how many times does 25 go into 150? It goes 6 times, which is 150. Subtract 0. I'm done. So my answer to this problem is 16 thousandths. All right. So that's it for now. I am going to go over this next example because that's kind of a crazy problem. And I know if you're absent, I know you're going to be doing some of the problems down here, probably 1 through 4, so check your absence sheet. And as always, if you have any questions, make sure you ask me, guys. Thanks.